Sounds good? Okay, perfect. Thank you. Good morning to everyone. It's quite early this morning. Hope the people stay getting into the room. Today I will let me introduce you to the people who are, there are amazing lineup of speakers. Let me introduce them to be here on the stage with me, and then we can start the roundtable that we have today. Please go ahead. Let me introduce you to Lucas de la Vega, Investment Director in Subi Capital. Please, Lucas.
Hi.
Here.
Hello.
Please.
I don't know if...
Rodrigo, one of the founders of Expon Capital. José Moncada, CEO de La Bolsa Social, another social impact fund. And Maribel Villaró, partner de Cuatro Casas. You know very well Cuatro Casas. So if you agree, we will start, because we have very tight slot of half an hour. Please, guys, be comfortable. Hey, if you agree, the roundtable title is, as Nacho say, is why some funds are specializing and they are investing in impactful, let me say, impactful startups. Means impact investing is a very high, very wide topic. There is a lot of approach around impact investing. That's why we invite these amazing speakers, because some of them has totally different approaches, and this will be, let me say, the core of this conversation. I will introduce them. I will ask you to introduce yourself, and please, maybe in the introduction you can explain also your approach to impact investing, just to start to showcase to the audience why you have different approaches and which is this approach. Please, Lucas, if you can start.
Well, thank you. First of all, thank you so much, South Summit, for having us here, and Diego for inviting us. My name is Lucas. I'm CEO of Subi Capital. We are an impact venture debt fund, and we are an finance first fund, meaning that we don't subsidize any returns, and we look for companies pretty much vinculated with the ODS, and the way itself the fund is generated is to avoid dilutions for founders. That's why we're doing venture debt and not venture capital of some of my colleagues here. And well, I think that'll be all for now, and I'll pass the word to Rodrigo.
Thank you, Lucas. Rodrigo, please.
Thank you, Lucas. So I'm Rodrigo Sepúlveda. I'm from Chile. I'm one of the 4 founding partners at Expon Capital. We're a venture capital firm based out of Luxembourg. We have 80 million euros as first fund under management. We have 2 pockets. We have an early stage pocket for Luxembourg-based companies. We've done 11 investments. And we have a growth stage pocket for global deals. And we've invested mainly in Europe, Israel, and the United States. In 2017, we adopted the UN SDGs, so the Sustainable Development Goals, as the core investment criteria for any deal we do. So whenever we invest in a company, we could look at specifically which of the 169 targets can we positively impact with any of the companies we have. So I'm sure we'll talk about our companies afterward. But yeah, nice to be here at South Summit.
Thank you. Please,
okay.
Jose.
Hello, good morning, everyone. My name is José Moncada. I'm CEO and founder of Bolsa Social and Fondo Bolsa Social. So thank you very much for the organizations and for the South Summit for having us here. So Bolsa Social was born as a participative financing platform, and it was the first authorized by the CNMV in 2015. It works to put in contact social startups, so social impact startups, together with impact investors in a very democratic way. That we launched in 2015, and in 2019 we launched an impact fund, social impact fund called Fondo Bolsa Social, that is investing in early stages of social and environmental startups in Spain.
Thank you, Jose. Please, Maribel.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you, Diego, and South Summit to invite me to join this amazing table. I am Maribel Villaró, Dutch partner at Cuatro Casas law firm, and I advise families and family business in planning their wealth and keeping their family legacy. And during the last years, I have become very aware that families, perhaps more younger generations, are seeking something more in their capital. They are used to deal with financial return, with financial risk, and now they ask more to their money. They ask for the impact their money has. So as investors, either directly or through their foundations, are increasingly looking for the impact of their investments, I think that clarity in the legal framework of doing so is of key importance. Thank you.
Thank you, Maribel. Perfect. So you already are presented. So let me jump into the topic that we have today. As you already know, and we already mentioned, impact investing is a very wide concept. Starting from, let me say, we have seen a lot of growth on that, and we see that different directions. The impact investing takes different directions. So coming from the social impact kind of investment to, of course, startups that are getting more technology in the technological side, but also they are approaching different meanings for the world. So they are trying to target something good for the world. So there is a very wide concept on that. That's why I will ask to a lot of the speakers maybe to define which is your approach or your vision around impact investing and why you are working on this topic. Maybe we can start with you, Lucas.
Okay, so from our side, it's very simple. We just want to invest in companies that are making the world a better place. This could take place either socially or environmentally, but for us, it's just a way to improve society or the environment. So to me, it's just when we look at the companies, so we obviously have a certain degree of independence within the investment committee, and this is probably different from some of my colleagues, but we take separate decisions. So some people take care of the financial decision, and some people do take care of the impact decision, which extract the conflict of interest out of the decision. Yeah. But for us, the main reason why we do this is because we believe that money should be more than just money and should have a purpose.
Clear, perfect. Rodrigo, please, your approach.
I'd like to contradict my colleague here, Lucas, when you say you do things that are very different from all your other colleagues. I actually do the same thing as you.
Okay.
I invest in companies that are committed to improving the state of the world and humanity, sure. And we try to take out bias of everything we do. So when we started Expon Capital back in 2015, we were 4 entrepreneurs, and we figured, what are we going to do now with our time, our lives, and our money? And we said, well, we want to invest in what was then not yet called tech for good. Like, we can do whatever we want. We can actually just go for returns. We are totally committed to bringing returns to our investors, what we call LPs, but at the same time, only investing in businesses that can improve the state of the world. We started off with a book called Exponential Organizations, that was written by Salim Ismail from Singularity University, hence our name, Expon Capital. And in that book, he identified 11 criteria after analyzing about 100 companies that grew very, very fast. The top criteria, though, was MTP, which means massively transformative purpose. Massive for us, and we refine all of this over the years, massive means it has to be able to impact at least 500 million people. Singularity used to be 1 billion. So 500 million people means a continent, means Europe, means North America, or means the world. So we never invest in a company that only targets Spain, for example. It's not big enough. It has to target potentially 500 million people. T is transformative. For us, it means technology, because technology can actually be disruptive, not incremental, right? So if there's not enough technology in any of the businesses that we look at, we will not invest. The most difficult one was purpose. What does purpose mean in our context? So it took us about a year, and that's when we found the UN SDGs in 2016-17, and we refined it. So now we look at all of the sub-goals, and they're very precise, and they're measured every year, every 2 years, discussed at the General Assembly of the United Nations, and the target time frame is 2030. It's in 9 years now. Back then it was 13 or 14 years. So it's very measurable, supposedly. And there is where the key problem of impact investing is. how do we measure impact? There are a lot of initiatives. People will go and say, we'll do ESGs, and there are companies such as EcoVadis in France that do scoring for companies. There are initiatives such as Ronald Cohen, former founder of Apex, wrote a book called Impact, about impact investing, and he's doing a database with Harvard on defining CO2 emissions, right, for companies and public companies. There is no common denominator on how to measure impact. And that's why we chose the SDGs and saying, okay, we'll look at every specific target goal and we'll look at how are we impacting specifically. I'll just give you one example of one of the companies we invested in. It's a company based out of Tel Aviv in Israel. They do chips, semiconductors. So you would say, oh, how boring. Well, what they do is they enhance the performance of storage of data. And they reduce actually the number of reads and writes, that's called an amplification factor, whenever you do a like, for example, on Facebook, by 100x, which means if you don't need to write or read so much, then you don't need as many servers. They can actually reduce about 2/3 the quantity of servers you need for storage management, which means you can reduce about 90% of energy consumption related to storage in data centers, reduce CAPEX, you need less servers, etc. Now, the world's energy consumption in data centers is 2 to 3%. Some projections give it at over 20%. So by investing in a chip manufacturer in Israel, what we're looking at is reducing energy consumption right around the world. So this is what we do, Lucas.
Amazing, guys. Thank you.
Very good.
Please, Jose.
So in Bolsa Social, our approach to impact investing is we really look for solutions, to support solutions. Solutions for what? For the most pressing issues that we have to face as a society. They are very well framed in the 17 United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. So we are looking to support companies based in Spain, but with an international ambition, that are in early stage, that have a good team, not good team, a top team behind, very good business model, and great ambition to grow, always with an element of innovation and technology precisely to be able to scale, and a clear social impact mission. And this has to be a mission, it has not to be an incidental impact, which is good, but we want to go to focus, we focus on companies that are bringing solutions as their core mission, and that is the key for us. That is the key for us. And that's why it's so important for us to measure the impact, as was mentioned by Rodrigo. As Rodrigo was mentioned, there are a lot of methodologies where we have to pick up one, and so we were forced to pick up one, and that's why we pick up two, which is the EVPA European standards and the IMP, precisely the one developed by Ronald Cohen. We have defined, since we have to focus on something, because we have to choose, we focus on bringing solutions in 5 areas where we think we can provide help, not only in terms of money, but also helping startups to find the solutions that they need to develop themselves. The first one is health and well-being, and by there we are not focusing the health system as a whole or the pharmaceutical, but we are focusing on specific issues related to well-being and health that have a significant social impact, like for instance, the health and the well-being of our elder. How can we invest in technology and methodologies that take care better for our elder? That is one aspect. Second, we focus on companies that are producing solutions in the field of education. So education for all and education of quality. And there are plenty of EdTech solutions that are very interesting and quite scalable. The third one would be sustainable production and consumption. We need to change the way we produce and consume. It's a linear way that is driving us to disaster, as we can see, and already we can see the seas flood of plastics. We need to change that. And that's why we go for solutions that are changing the industries, like fashion, for instance. You know that fashion is the second most polluting industry in the world, after oil, the oil industry. So we need to change that. And we are supporting solutions of sustainable fashion, quite innovative, and with technology as well. Also in the field of agriculture, we are also helping agricultures to change the traditional agriculture towards a more sustainable production. The fourth is very linked to the previous one. The fourth sector that we are interested in is climate change. We are in a hurry against climate change. As Obama said, we are the first generation that we are experiencing the climate change and the last one that can change it, can reverse it. So we need to take action, and we need to take exponential action. So we need to invest in technology and solutions that help us to reduce the CO2 emission and achieve the zero net emissions. And finally, we also are interested in what is linked to social innovation and social cohesion and integration. By that we are meaning solutions for collectivities, group of people that are more vulnerable in our society, like dependents, like youth unemployed, and so on. And this is where we focus, and we think we can make an impact by supporting with money and support, advice, help, startups, very innovative, as I said, with technology, top entrepreneurs, and ambition to grow and change our society. That's it.
Thank you, Jose. Thank you. Very, very interesting. Please, Maribel. Maybe you are, let me say, the different one in the room. So from your perspective, which is maybe you can explain us, which is very important now on, is which is how is now the legal framework around all this topic.
Well, in fact, talking about the legal framework is not as exciting as explaining all your projects, but is that what lawyers we have? Well, I think that the commitment of the European Union with sustainability and impact is undeniable. Having the European Green Deal as a framework, we can point out two main ideas. One is that it stands for a growth that gives in more than it takes away, and the other one is that Europe wants to be a guide. We want to show that we can be both sustainable and competitive. In this sense, the European Commission is developing a new framework which will permit or will encourage investing for sustainable impact. I would like to highlight three main rules that I consider very important. One is the environmental taxonomy, and it establishes a set of criteria to identify which products and which projects are considered environmentally sustainable in Europe. And as I recall, by the end of this year, we expect to have the final report on the social taxonomy, would be great. The second is the non-financial reporting directive. This is now currently under review in order to improve the environmental information that the companies have to give and that are key for investors in order to decide if they invest or not and in which projects. And the third rule is the Sustainable Finance Disclosure Regulation. Very long names, all these rules. And under this regulation, all the financial institutions working in Europe have to classify the products they market or they buy on in three main categories. The so well-known Article 6, Article 8, and Article 9. Although we believe that it's a very first step to go for a standard, this kind of products, we think that it's missing more clarity in the definition or even in the characteristics on the products. So what's happening in Spain? As it cannot be otherwise, Spain is incorporating to its national law all the European regulations. Among many examples and rules, I would like to talk about three in particular. One is the EU CEFs, the other the social impact bonds or the pay for results contract, and finally the paper of foundations as providers of capital. One example of sustainable investment is the European Social Entrepreneurship Funds. There are 5 in Spain. One is Bolsa Social Impacto. Jose can talk a lot about that. But from the legal perspective, I wanted to say that in order to attract capital to this kind of investments, Vizcaya has approved a very special tax law that gives attractive benefits to both the funds and the participants. So if only we can have a kind of this regulation all around the territory, it would be great. Talking about the social impact bans, or the pay-for-results contracts, is such an innovative figure that it's neither recognized nor regulated in the Spanish law. But as Cuatro Casas experience, as we are working into projects that are now in design in Spain, we see that it's some kind difficult for public administration to join this kind of contracting with investors and social service providers, and that rules must go on and we will have to work hard on it. And last but not least, the paper of foundations as providers of capitals. Now there is no clear framework for foundations that want to invest in impact. But as breaking news, I can inform you that now there is a proposal to reform the tax law of foundations. And we in Cuatro Casas are working together with the Spain app and the Spanish Association in Foundations on proposals that may allow foundations to make impact investment. And I don't want to finish without speaking just a little about the Shell case, which is a milestone ruling. This May, a Dutch court considered that the economic interest of a company should be sacrificed in favor of climate and human rights. Although this statement may seem obvious, it's fairly unusual in a ruling. The Dutch oil company Shell was considered responsible for contributing to the climate change, and therefore was condemned to reduce its CO2 emissions and all its supply chain by 45% by 2030. It's a lot. Setting a precedent, the Dutch court considers that company must not violate human rights and must contribute to avoid being violated wherever they operate. Well, in summary, I think that these court cases and all the work, legislative work that the European Commission is doing is paving the way for investing in what really matters, the protection of the planet and the human rights.
Thank you, Maribel. Super interesting vision. I think you've been through all these instruments and mechanisms. It's clear that let me say the vertical is, if you can call vertical, is heating up a lot. Huh? There is a lot of activity, also regulations. I am very sure that these mechanisms are quite agile to get projects done. But you maybe the last part, we have 7 minutes. Maybe for the audience, I think it's interesting maybe to put some examples on investment. You already say something, Rodrigo, on that case, but maybe you can say one example that can illustrate which is these startups.
So I'd like to react to what you're saying about regulation. There are two kinds of people. People that have to be forced into behaving better, and for them maybe regulation works, and people who are not waiting to be forced into a regulation. You mentioned SFDR and Article 6, 8, and 9. Seems very complex, but at some stage, stage 9, it says that my compensation, the carried interest, how I might make money, is linked to indicators that I define today that will be measured in 10 years on companies that I've not invested in yet, and that if I don't meet those indicators in 10 years, then I will not make money in 10 years. Doesn't really make sense to me. It's too much bureaucracy. I prefer to invest in companies that are making an impact today and do it because I want to, not because I'm forced to. So examples of companies we've invested in are very close to the ones you were saying. We just did this summer a company out of Vienna in Austria called Refurbed, and it's a marketplace for refurbished electronic goods. You don't have to produce more laptops. There are plenty already out there that can do enough. They have enough power for you to work, for kids to work. Why always buy the latest one, which consumes rare earth, has child labor behind it sometimes, and it makes it cheaper for the consumer. We're investors in a company, and you mentioned digital health, that we just did a couple of, this is like a scoop, last week, I think, in mental health in Berlin, that is helping people, and specifically anxiety and depression post-COVID. We're investors in a climate company that went public last month. They sent 140 nanosatellites in space. With that, they can reduce wildfire, or actually enhance wildfires' accuracy prediction by 30%. They track, planes, boats around the world, and that has reduced 20 to 30%, according to the different clients, of energy consumption of those planes or boats, right? So we can all contribute ourselves and invest right now without the need for extra regulation and reporting. Like ESGs require reporting. I'd rather just do. I'm an entrepreneur at heart, right? And all the examples I'm giving you, and there's many more, we're actually coming up with an impact report this month of October. So you'll find that on our website.
Thank you, Rodrigo. Amazing stuff. Maybe Lucas, you can.
Yeah, well, related with what Rodrigo just said, we shouldn't wait till regulation to come in and say what we need to do. We have, from our side, we were born through COVID crisis, and the moment COVID popped up, we sat down and said, what can we do as impact managers or as just managers of money? And we decided that at that time, it was impactful to invest into a cosmetic companies and travel tech companies just because of the environment. These companies were doing close to 10 million revenues per year, and they, from one month to another, they just stopped selling products and services. So at that point in time, we thought that investing into a cosmetic firm and an online travel agency was an impactful investment. Although when you see it from a third party, you may see, okay, this doesn't seem to be impactful right now, because, okay, COVID has at least diminished its effects, and we are now in a safer situation, but you also need to have context. And on that side, I do agree with Rodrigo that regulation probably will not solve the problem of impact financing, or of at least defining what it is impact financing.
Thank you, Lucas.
Okay.
Because, yeah, please.
Me as a former regulator, but not wanting to go into the controversy, regulation does not solve everything, but helps. I have seen that European regulation helps a whole sector to move, and of course it's quite improvable. But now going to real examples, which is the exciting thing, no? What are we bringing in and supporting, the startups that we are supporting? Bolsa Social, in Fondo Bolsa Social, focusing in solutions, in bringing solutions to the problem. We have identified a big problem that we have in Spain and in whole Europe, which is the aging population. 20% of the people in Spain now is bigger than 65 years old, and this figure is going to increase. So we live more, and that's why we live longer, which is a beautiful thing, but that brings a lot of challenges as a society. We need to ensure good care of these people, of the elder, that they want to live at home, but they need a lot of support, medical support, and also assistance, social assistance. So we invested in a tech company called Tucubi that is developed a sort of It's just a software that calls directly to the elder at home. It's a machine talking with the elder at home and taking information from them about their situation, whether they need any support, whether they are in a situation that needs intervention, or whether they are just lonely and they need just conversation. And it's just a machine talking to them. And that can multiply, that can scale fantastically. That is one solution. So how can tech help us to tackle big challenges that we have as a society? But also we have invested in a company that has developed biofertilizers and bioprotectors for the crops to reduce the abuse of chemicals in the agriculture. It's a big challenge that we have as a society as well, the abuse of chemicals. The European regulation is pushing to reduce the chemicals precisely, so it's a great opportunity, business opportunity, but also is really helping us to have more efficient, because it's more efficient than the chemicals, more efficient agriculture that is sustainable. This is what we need. It's called Nostoc Biotech, and it's growing very well. In the field of sustainable development, as I said, sustainable consumption, we are focused as well in the problem of the textile industry. The second, as I said, the second most polluting industry in the world. We need to change the way we dress and the way we produce textile and we buy clothes and we dispose of them, because it's very polluting. It's really polluting. Go and study about this, because it's insane. So we have invested in a couple of companies, and I will finish with this. One of them is Sepia, which has developed a material that is really not getting dirt. So you don't need to clean it, or you reduce the energy that you use to clean it, and it's produced here locally. So you are reducing the CO2 emissions that are involved in the chain of the textile industry. And also we have invested in Tropic Fill, another company that recycles textile to produce very good fashion. So there are a lot of solutions there that are good business opportunities and also are helping us to tackle the biggest problems that we have as a society.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's clear that we have a lot of issues to solve. Hope you can do it. Thank you, guys. We are running out of time. We need to finish. Thank you very, very much for all your visions and to be here. Thank you
Very much.
Thank you.